This is Made for More Living with Johnny Jennings, powered by eXp Realty. Online at madeformoreliving.com.
We are back with Donalee Ham with Asset Preservation, and we are talking about the super exciting topic of 1031 exchanges. It may not be that exciting, but man, when it comes to saving money, that gets me excited.
Well, it comes to not having to pay, or at least deferring taxes.
I know.
That is also something that's really exciting.
I know. Donalee's always like, defer.
Defer, yes.
It does not wipe it out.
I started to say not pay, and she looked at me, she's like, no, defer. It's always a defer.
Well, you're not paying them right now.
So it feels like you're not paying taxes.
Pay them later.
Exactly.
You feel like you're paying. You're not paying them now. So it feels like you're not paying them.
So, and there's actually ways. I think you mentioned to reduce it, not necessarily reduce it, but they never go away. The taxes as well. The whole wall analogy. Yeah.
So we've had several clients over the years who will ask us, hey, what if I want to eventually move into this property and make this my primary residence? Can I do that? And the answer is always sure. I had this one client call and say, hey, I'm getting close to retirement age. What we'd really like to do is purchase our forever home and rent it out for a couple of years. And then when we're actually really ready to retire and call it quits and live the good retirement life, move into that property.
That's smart.
Totally. Very smart investment, very smart estate planning plan. And I said, yeah, you can absolutely do that. So they bought it, they rented it out for a couple of years, and then they moved into it. And the way that can, if they decided to sell it later down the road, can reduce their tax liability is, let's say they owned it for 10 years and they lived in it for 8. They rented it for 2 years. They lived in it for 8 years. They can take, if they were still married, they could take that Section 121 primary residence capital gain exclusion on 80% of the gain on that property.
Wow.
So they're going to pay 20% because for 20% of the time they lived there, it qualified as an investment property. But for 80% of the time they lived there, it qualified as their primary residence. So the longer they live there, more gain they can exclude. But that's one way that you could reduce the capital gain on an investment property.
And if you're listening to this and you're thinking, okay, great, maybe if I stay in it long enough, it'll go down to zero. It's that classic analogy of if you walk halfway to a wall and you walk halfway and then you walk halfway and then you walk halfway, like you'll never technically be touching the wall. So the longer you're in the home, you're technically reducing that tax burden, but you'll never completely eliminate it. Is that correct?
Correct. I mean, at some point it may feel like you're paying $0, but it's still going to be something.
Okay. And so it seems like this is a very complicated process. We started talking a little bit about the timelines. Do you mind just giving us a quick, brief overview of the process? Yeah.
So you open your exchange once you get into escrow on the property that you're selling.
Okay.
The sale closes. That day starts your 1031 exchange. You have 180 days from that point to complete your exchange and close and take title to the property that you're going to exchange into. And you have to identify that property within the first 45 days of that 180 days. So total of 180 days, you have 45 days to identify what you're going to purchase.
Okay. That seems a little fast.
It is. Yeah, it can be. That's the tight timeline that people have a problem with. And people very commonly call and complain to us about it, and we have to tell them that the IRS is not flexible with these timelines. They're not extended unless there's a federal disaster, and they do not care about market conditions.
Gosh, yeah. I've seen this. I have this shirt at home. It says defund the IRS. So it's like, hey, don't shoot the messenger. It's the IRS that's causing this problem.
Right. The IRS can be so difficult. I mean, because you're talking about getting closer and closer to the wall, and I was like, the only two things in life, death and taxes.
Yep.
If not one, the other for sure.
Job security for the government.
Exactly.
Yep. So it's a simple process. You just have to be in escrow, identify the next property in 45 days, and then they give you, whatever the math is, a total of 180 days to close on the next property. But if somebody's never done this before and they don't know what they're doing, do you often run into people who are maybe given bad advice or maybe have worked with a different company that has not helped them, and you have to kind of pick up the pieces?
Yeah, I talk to people every day that are calling in either because they have never done a 1031 exchange.
Wait, how do they
before.
call in? What's that phone number again?
1-800-282-1031.
All right, you got it.
Call us all day long. We'll answer the phone.
Okay.
So I talk to people all day long that either have never done a 1031 exchange, so they're calling with no information, no idea what's going on, or they're on their second or third or fourth call and they're just trying to get some answers about what the rules are. They've done some research on the internet. Maybe they've called a couple of other companies, but they're just not really sure on what the rules are. And I'll spend 15, 20, 30 minutes talking with them, just answering all of their questions, going over the process from, step 1 through step 15, just whatever it takes to get them to the point where they feel comfortable with how to get from the property that they're selling to the property that they're purchasing.
That's very different from my understanding about how other asset, management companies work. Normally you start with like the lower person on the totem pole, like the person receiving the calls, and you got to work your way up. Press 1 for this, transfer you to this, and you're in this like call tree. But it seems like they're starting at the top with your company.
Yes, they are. So when they call the 800-282-1031 number, they're still going to get an auto attendant. They're going to press 2, which is to get questions answered or to open a new exchange. That option is going to take them to me. I'm Asset Preservation's Chief Operating Officer. It's going to get them to Javier Vandestieg, our president, Bob Shart, our vice president, Aaron Riley, counsel. So it's going to get them to the top people in our organization because we want to make sure that our clients are getting the best and the best information at the very beginning of their transaction. And then once they open an exchange with us, they're getting a dedicated exchange counselor for the duration of their exchange. They're going to work with an Anna Marty or a Christina Bean or Chris Neese or Ryan Thomas, and they're going to become their person. Mm-hmm. They're going to develop a relationship with them. Anna is going to know everything about their exchange and their transactions from start to finish, and they're going to have their direct phone number, their email, and they're going to get a very one-on-one personal service from that exchange counselor.
White glove concierge type of a service.
That's what we're going for.
Rather than pass it around and it's an assembly line of people and you don't know who to talk to about what, you have that dedicated, what's the term you used?
Exchange counselor.
That dedicated exchange counselor.
Yep.
That's awesome. And so if somebody's thinking about doing a 1031, what are some common pitfalls or some advice that you would give to somebody who's looking to maybe perform one of these?
Probably the first bit of advice that I would give is call early before you are thinking about selling your property. You want to make sure that you know the rules before you start going into it so that you don't inadvertently make a mistake like close on your property before you get your exchange open. That's a big one. I take calls like that a couple times a week where people say, I just closed. Can I do a 1031 exchange? The answer is no.
There's
Sorry,
no way around
it's too
that.
late. Nope. Once
my
you've
gosh.
closed, you've created that taxable event, and there's no way to undo that. Short of undoing the closing, which in my 20 years with asset preservation, I've seen that happen maybe twice.
Twice. Out of how many transactions would you say?
We do about 10,000 transactions a year.
Wow. So you're saying if you're even thinking about doing a 1031 exchange before you even start the process of selling, call and start and know what you need to do so you don't get stuck paying a tax bill.
Absolutely.
What does the call cost? Like, do they have to pay a retainer fee to speak with you?
Nope.
Or
It's free consultation.
free consultation, get the information, and then move forward.
Absolutely.
Love it. And so that's the number one thing. What's something else that people run into besides reaching out to you up front?
I think probably the second thing that people are running into, especially now, is it's hard to find replacement properties. So, one thing we're telling people is they think they have to wait to start looking until after their exchange starts. They don't. They can start looking before they list their property, as soon as their property goes into contract at some point. To do the simple delayed exchange where you sell first, buy second, you can go into contract at any point on both properties. You just want to make sure that the sale of the closing of the sale happens first, and then the closing of the purchase happens second.
How close does that have to be? Could it be like you record in the morning on the sale and record in the afternoon on the purchase?
Yeah, it could be same day. So we have I had a client who had thought he had his relinquished property, which is the property that he's selling, and the replacement property. He thought that he had those a week apart, and the relinquished property closing got delayed almost a week.
Whoa.
And he was freaking out a bit, understandably, because all of a sudden he thought he was either going to have to switch into a reverse exchange or that it wasn't going to work out at all, because he was concerned about whether or not he was going to be able to come up with funds to purchase the replacement property if he had to do the reverse exchange. And I explained to him, hey, if you can get these to close on the same day, we can make that happen.
Nice.
So, even same day closings, that's doable.
So that's almost what I would, not necessarily same day, but that's kind of what I would encourage clients to do is, hey, let's sell this property, let's find this next property, and not do a concurrent close, but let's make this as seamless as possible. Because, man, it just seems so stressful. Like, if you have 45 days, that is, now you feel pressured into making a bad decision potentially on that replacement property.
Yeah, I think people that have an idea of the direction that they're going to go, kind of going into the whole thing, feel less stressed out than when they go into it having no idea what they're doing.
So see step one,
Right.
call Donalee.
Yeah. But the other way to look at it is, even if you have no idea what you're doing, not calling and choosing not to set up an exchange gives you no option to exchange. So, our fee is $1,250, and if you have no idea what you're doing before you sell your relinquished property, you pay $1,250 to give yourself the option to exchange. But if you don't set up the exchange, let's say on day 30 you find the perfect property, you go into contract immediately on it, but you didn't set up your exchange before you sold your property. So now you have no option to exchange. You can't do it.
Interesting. So that $1,250, is that due regardless of whether or not the property, like when does somebody pay the $1,250?
When their sale closes.
So let's say they decide, hey, I'm not even going to do the 1031, the sale. Can they back out, or are they still locked into that $1,250?
It's a non-refundable fee.
Okay, because you've performed the services. They just decided not to move forward.
Yeah, exactly.
But how much money are they? Do you happen to know off the top of your head the average amount of money they're deferring by doing a 1031, by paying that small $1,250 fee? I mean, that's less than a trust. That's very nominal.
Yeah, I mean, it's an extremely nominal fee for what they're going to not pay in taxes.
Yeah.
I mean, most of our clients are deferring tens of thousands of dollars in taxes.
Yep.
So.
Yeah, so definitely the 10X rule on that. You're getting more than 10X return on your money there.
Absolutely.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for being on the show, Donalee. One last time, what's the best way for them to reach out to you?
Give us a call, 800-282-1031.
All right. Well, thank you so much, and we hope to have you back soon.
Thanks so much for having me, guys. Anytime.
Awesome.
There's a reason why they have so many 5-star Google reviews, why they are number one in all of Sacramento. It's because they get the most money for their clients in the shortest amount of time. So if you're looking to sell your home, we can't recommend anyone better than Johnny Jennings and the Made for More real estate team. So all you got to do, if you're interested in selling your home, you just want a quick meeting with Johnny to see what he can do for your family, Google Johnny Jennings, the Made for More living team.